I think my mom might join.
Yes, she is. Sharice is not feeling well, so she had to. I'm CHAR. I am a loving, passionate, and creative human being, indigenous to the exotic island of Jamaica, West Indies. My name, Charmaine, was handpicked by the divine, for I am the quintessence of its core meaning: singer, song, delight. Adult Conversations with CHAR was designed to stimulate wholesome, honest, and provocative dialogue. The ultimate purpose of my platform is to transform lives by empowering people to face their truth, embrace their greatness within, and impact the world for the better. Sandy Cummings is a jazz singer and coach. Her early singing career started in 1970 through 1974. Sandy was born in Brooklyn, New York, and arrived in California in 1953. She lived up and down the state until college and has been in Santa Barbara since 1965. Sandy earned a bachelor's in sociology and a master's in psychology and is a retired volunteer marriage and family counselor after practicing for 22 years. Nina Canuti, a recent DePaul University graduate with a degree in communications and media studies. She is an aspiring astrologer, a tarot reader, and student of life. She has always had a passion for serving and helping others. She loves healing and bringing more love and grace into the world. Her goal in life is to aid others in feeling seen, heard, and loved. Amber Farrington is a multi-gifted creative soul, adapting to life on Earth and discovering how best to be of service to the world at this time. Amber feels called to bring attention to and help heal the physical, mental, and emotional manifestations of trauma passed down through generations of resilient but often misguided people. She recently launched Voice of 10,000, which is a podcast that creates a safe space for healing narcissistic abuse. She looks forward to helping people form genuine soul connections through self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-love. Suzanne Cross has been singing with a variety of top-notch bands and organizations in the Chicagoland area for many years. Able to sing a variety of styles, she turned to classical singing with the prestigious Chicago Symphony Chorus for 4 seasons, 1999 to 2003. A music therapist by day, she sings many styles with ease, including standards, blues, soul, classical, and her favorite style, rock. Tobias Tolles, a creative producer and editor. His production company, Cloud 12 Productions, is about uplifting misrepresented and underrepresented groups. Tobias has always been a big believer in mental health and continues to advocate for minorities entering the field. As a member of the LGBTQ+ community, he continues to bridge the gap between younger and older generations' perceptions of the community. Tobias's motto in life has always been about good vibes.
You know what's older than abortion? Rape. Do you have any idea how many men have taken pleasure in destroying a child? Do you know how many women have walked home from a frat party with their heels in their hands, completely disheveled, planning to take their lives? Abortion was illegal when my oldest brother was conceived. He was a product of rape. My mother beat him nearly to death for about 16 years of his life. Put him in the hospital a couple of times. He started shooting heroin at 14. Went to jail countless times. When he got AIDS in the 1980s, he had nowhere to go, so he froze to death in an abandoned car in Coney Island.
10 animals that practice homos.
Yeah. Oh my. Welcome, everybody. That was a dark opening, but it's real life. Thank you for being here for such a sensitive topic. We are picking up where we left off last week. It's a much needed conversation. Yeah, hold on 1 minute. We're trying to get Suzanne in. Sharice wasn't able to be here. She's having a bad allergic reaction, so she couldn't be here with us tonight. So we're gonna miss her. Thank you everybody for showing up. I'm trying to give Suzanne a little bit of time to come in if we can get her in.
She's the worst with technology. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
He cannot figure it out. I'm like, Mom,
That's
it's
okay.
like not that hard.
I just sent her the link.
Oh my goodness. Okay, great.
That's all right. So while we're waiting for her, I just want to say, like I said, this is our season finale, and ACC, Adult Conversations with CHAR, will be taking a break to regroup and prepare for the next season. I want to personally say thank you to my production team, the panelists, and the viewers for making this a success. So cheers to many, many more. So what do you all think about that that Bible verse? So I wanted to do some research before we met again. And I know growing up in church, we've been taught that homosexuality was a sin and that it was wrong. And then I stumbled on that scripture talking about Lot. And I was like, wait, what? I don't know why I forgot about that. This man, who I guess was supposed to be a man of God, I got emotional on that one. Totally devalued his daughters to the point of wanting to give them up to be gang raped to protect the angels. And it just made me think that's how, when it comes to women and women's rights, it's almost like we've had none, and that's why we're having this conversation now. Going back to the topic last week about Roe v. Wade. Suzanne here? Was that her?
No,
Still not here.
she's apparently still having problems.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. We'll just continue until she can work it out. Sandy, you want to say something?
It occurs to me that if she tried to get in the way I did the first time, she has to go in through an email, because you can't link from a text message unless you stay on your phone.
Yeah, I sent her the link as well.
Okay.
Ask her if she's already logged in to Zoom, because that might be why the link is not working.
Okay, I'm asking. That's what I said.
Okay.
I sent her the link. I told her to click on Adult Conversations with CHAR Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's just saying that her iPad is just spinning, but I'm telling her to download it on her phone, but she won't.
Okay. Okay.
Being stubborn, sorry.
That's okay. So how do you all feel about what we just saw? It was heavy. Amber actually shared that TikTok video with me, which again proves my point, forcing women to carry out pregnancies that they did not sign up for, and the trauma it not only has on them, but also on that child. And for whatever reason, people make light of that, and it's not fair to them to either. Mm-hmm. I told you all my story. That's how my life has been. I could feel the void of love, the emptiness, because I wasn't conceived in love. So what comes to mind to you guys? It's a heavy one.
The fact that that lore started back then, that women were chattel, they were property. Recently, especially in the law, with respect to rape in general, the law did not come out of the fact that it was a crime against a woman. It was a crime against a man's property in the initial go. And for, hundreds of years, every time a woman was raped, she had to prove that she didn't entice the man and all that sort of thing, and blame the female for causing the rape. I was taking a crime and delinquency class at UCSB some years ago, and the young graduate student was really sharp. He sent us home with a lecture. He said to the gentleman in the classroom, you need to understand that doing that to a woman is equivalent to you being put on the stand to defend why you wore a Rolex watch that you were robbed of and asking you to justify why you were robbed. Women have been for however long treated that way. They're less than the value of men. It's always been true. Nuns are not allowed to be priests. They were subjugated. We're all subjugated.
It's not actually true, just, they make it seem as though it's true, but that's not the truth.
Exactly. Oh, we know, but it's just like, how long do we have to fight? How long do we have to fight to be seen and to be respected? I don't know if it's going to be a constant. Before we go on, I meant to do this before we actually got into the conversation. Tobias has been the one behind the scenes for all this time, but this is his first time joining us on the panel. So welcome. This is the voice and the face behind the scenes working magic for adult conversation. So I appreciate all the hard work you've been doing with me. Thank you so much for being here. And Carly. Hi, Carly. She knows what's up.
Yeah.
Yes. So thanks for that, Sandy. That was good stuff. Amber, what were you saying? I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
I was saying something.
Oh, I thought you were responding to something Sandy said.
No, I was just saying that it's not true that we are actually of lesser value than men. It's just, I think that we've been conditioned to believe that over like millennia, but of course it's not true.
Exactly. So here we go. The fight continues. Oh, there's Suzanne.
I'm here. Sorry, guys.
Hey.
My
Hi,
iPad is
Suzanne.
still spinning, ladies. I'm so sorry. It's just
We
still.
can hear you.
Can you hear me? I'm on my phone.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear you and we can see you. You're looking lovely as
Ooh, you
usual.
look so pretty.
Thank you.
You.
Look, I got the girls out tonight.
You got the girls out today.
Because we're talking
The
about
necklace.
women's stuff.
Well, all right. Well, maybe I'll pull my. You look beautiful, Char.
Thank you. So do you.
I have a new boyfriend. This is my new boyfriend.
We got all the puppies. We have King, we have Carly, and what is your dog
Is that a
name?
lab?
What?
He's cute.
What's his name, Suzanne?
Oh, is Monty. Is it Monty
Monty.
Python from the old television show from the 70s? Yeah.
Hi, Monty.
Joe Monty Moore.
Hi, Momo. All right, so Suzanne, you missed the
Yes.
opening, but we're talking
did.
about value, how women had been devalued through the centuries, through the ages. And here we are still fighting to be seen as human and to be respected. We've got to ultimately know our worth for ourselves. That's bottom line. But as a unit, as a force, we have to constantly fight to be seen as that, I guess. Like, we can't settle, I referenced because I was looking up, because we're going to be talking about the LGBTQ plus community tonight.
Okay.
And I was doing some research because I've been taught in church that, homosexuality is wrong, that it's not godly, it's demonic. And I stumbled on the verse about Lot. When I don't know how much you know about that, Suzanne. I know you're not very much into church stuff,
Hate to
But
trick
just,
you.
but just retraining my thinking. And Lot, there was a situation where the angels came into the city, and the men in the city, they wanted to sleep with the angels. To fight off those men, Lot offered to give his daughters up to be gang raped by the men to protect
Ugh.
the angels. Yeah, that. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know how much of the scripture is really real, because I don't know that that God even has
Translation.
anything. Huh?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the translation. There's, things are lost in translation.
Yes. That's why it's hard for me to read scriptures,
Mhm.
because I'm like, there's no way that God would have validated a man who would treat a woman that way. There's just no way, because we're God's creation as well. There she is, Nina. Welcome. So yeah, before we move on from that, I don't know if anybody, I'll also play a video about this gentleman. I don't know, Tobias, is it too much to play that clip again? Or is it too much? Should I not play it? The guy that was talking, Amber.
No, I'm okay with you playing it.
Tobias,
Yeah,
can you, just
yeah,
so
I
we
have-
can catch Suzanne up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so late. So
That's
don't
okay.
mess it up for me.
Rape. Do you have any idea how many men have taken pleasure in destroying a child? Do you know how many women have walked home from a frat party with their heels in their hands, completely disheveled, planning to take their lives? Abortion was illegal when my oldest brother was conceived. He was a product of rape. My mother beat him nearly to death for about 16 years of his life. Put him in the hospital a couple of times. He started shooting heroin at 14. Went to jail countless times. When he got AIDS in the 1980s, he had nowhere to go, so he froze to death in an abandoned car in Coney Island.
Unmute everyone. We can't hear you. Unmute.
Got it.
Was somebody saying something?
I just was making a bit of a joke. I wish I had something stronger than water after hearing that. That's, oh,
But it's symbolic that this young man recognizes, and so many men don't recognize the dangers that women face, that they don't. Their body size alone gives them more confidence being out in the world. If you're walking around at night, I don't know about you, but I go to a movie by myself, I'm looking over my shoulder.
Mhm.
There's no safe way to be a female alone. And not only that, the level of incestuous behavior that has gone on through the centuries from parent to child or relative to child it's staggering. The percentages, if I recall correctly from grad school, but that's 20 years ago, so they're probably higher, that the percentage of women that have been subjected to sexual assault prior to the age of 10, somewhere about 75% of all children, all females.
oh,
The boys are, and these are for those who report,
Right.
many don't. So it's about 50% of boys. It's because they're too ashamed to admit.
Mm.
Children are treated like, talk about being subjected. They're the, what do you call it? The slaves of the parents. And they see themselves as that through adolescence. They can remember my kids, how, Mom, I'm not here just to take out the garbage. Say, well, no, but you do help the family participate. It's terrible the way women have been treated throughout the centuries. Now, I'm not that strong a feminist, but I do believe in certain things being our right to breathe, our right to own our own bodies, whether and to say no,
Right.
or say yes.
Right.
It was a double-edged sword. You'd get slammed if you consented to sexual activity and you weren't married, and then you'd be criticized if you didn't, or shunned. by the men. They wouldn't come, they wouldn't go out with you. It's a mixed message all the way. I'm 75, so I'm quite a bit older than most of you. I came through the early 50s. And
Wow.
women didn't have they didn't have a voice. So I mean, I'm only saying this to give you a historical perspective.
Right.
And then when Roe v. Wade was passed, what year was it? 72, I think. It was freedom. For the first time, women
Mhm.
could be as promiscuous or not as they chose. They had protection against pregnancy, and nobody had to know that they
Right.
had been risque.
Right.
Now, the legislation that's coming down is scary. Somebody's got to speak here besides me.
Yes.
Come on, jump
Yes.
in.
It's so dark. It's so dark. It was at January 22nd, 1973. Sandy. Yeah, we were talking last week about, the rights of the woman being taken away from her and feeling pressure to carry a child. Well, they were violated.
Yeah.
And Suzanne, you know this too, but because I was a product of a similar thing. My conception was not a wanted conception.
Yeah.
My mom was violated, and so many others. But okay, so we're talking about women's right. We talked about that last week. Bringing it into we left off in the LGBTQ community, and the reason why I invited Tobias is because nobody actually knew this, but Tobias is a trans male. And I wanted him to come on and tell his story, how that happened, how it started, how's the journey been for you?
Yeah, so I'm Tobias, I'm 23. I always felt like I was born in the wrong body. Even when I was a kid, like when I looked in the mirror, it wasn't exactly how I felt on the inside. And I guess like when I started to finally realize that is like after the first time I had came out, like just like as a lesbian, like I always knew I was always attracted to like women, but I just didn't know that it wasn't in the way that women like women, but in the way that a male likes a woman. So, over the pandemic, which had a lot of downtime, I just started researching and started to realize like, yeah, like that is exactly how I feel, like those people that are talking on that screen to me. And I've been like on hormones for a year and a half, I believe now. I started hormones when I was back home in Michigan, and the difference between Michigan and Chicago, like it's a lot harder in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Very difficult, but I lucky enough have a doctor there. Still have that same doctor just because of insurance, but it's hard. And every single day when I walk outside, it's a battle whether somebody will see me as who I am or I will get misgendered. I think it's like kind of funny to me because like only now recently have I been able to like pass in society as male. And when I walk down the street, it's like I can't walk behind a white woman anymore. Like it's weird. It's the dynamic, it's changed. Like before it was okay. And like not only that, but like my dog, he's a pit bull mix. And so like that aggression of me and that aggression of him, like that's just like no. So like now I have to learn, like reteach myself, like okay, like where I can walk and where I can go. Not only that, but like most of my friends are like women or women aligned people, and like I will always respect and always protect all my friends. I'm kind of like their annoying older or little brother depending on age difference. But like I will always protect them and everything, like they know that, and like those are my friends. But at the end of the day, I believe that trans youth really do need to be protected and they really do deserve those rights. I think that what happened in Texas is really wrong, and that we should really protect those kids. Like they need a voice just like everyone else. Like it shouldn't be that Like I know the rights in Michigan, for you to be able to get hormones, you have to be 21 without like having a diagnosis from like a medical professional, and 18 from a diagnosis. I was 21 when I started, I think, maybe. I knew I didn't need a diagnosis at the end of the day,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say, diagnosis, that's not the right word.
yeah,
You're just you. You're not
Right,
diagnosed.
exactly.
yeah.
He said
That's
that
interesting.
in order to qualify for what he had to go through, some psychiatrist had to evaluate his
Oh,
gender
okay.
identity and all. That's just amazing amount of stuff. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry you had to go through that,
So
Tobias.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's
Uh,
difficult. I mean, like every single day, like between insurances and just be able to pay for it. Like it's expensive. I know when I first started, there's different forms, which a lot of people don't know that. There's gel, there's injections and whatnot. I have a needle phobia. I can't do needles. My insurance would not cover it for the gel. I ended up paying $200 every single month for like 5 months, and that was draining my paycheck, and I couldn't do it anymore. Eventually, I had to get over my needle phobia, and I just have to get over it and just work through it because my insurance will not cover it either way. So like I said, like it's just hard, but you know, every single day when I walk outside, it's like, you know, I'm going to continue to be who I am, and you know, who doesn't like it, I'm just going to keep moving forward. That's why like one of my mottos in life is just vibe.
Yeah. I'm so sorry it's been so difficult for you and the many people who feel this. Like, you know, you think of the little kids who are like, they're drawn to certain things. And I love that there are parents now who are in tune to that instead of trying to conform, because you look like a boy, you look like a girl, this is what you do, you know, but they're allowing them to become. I again, in my research, I found something online. Tobias, you can play that now.
Ten animals that practice homosexuality. Number 10. Rams. Domestic rams are statistically among the most extensively gay mammals in existence. These same-sex couples do not mate, but they act as a couple in every other way throughout their life. Number 9. Laysan albatross. These pairs of female birds exhibit all the behaviors of close pair bonding and engage in nesting, bill kissing, and a variety of other albatross breeding behaviors. Number 8. Bottlenose dolphin. In one incredible case, a pair of gay dolphins enjoyed a 17-year relationship. It has become clear that dolphin relationships are extremely strong, regardless of the specific orientation of the marine mammals involved. Number 7. Bonobos. They are famous for using a language of love, rather than a language of aggression, to resolve problems and communicate with each other. Since many of the conflicts occur between two males or between two females, homosexual bonding is a frequent occurrence among them. Number 6. Cock of the rock. Up to 40% of males engage in same-sex activity. Unlike the seabirds previously discussed, only the male birds of this species seek homosexual encounters. Number 5. African lions. Male lions have been documented mounting other males and engaging in a variety of behaviors normally reserved for single pairs of opposite sex couples. The reason for male lion associations is unknown. However, lions have some of the strongest sex drives of any cat species. Number 4. Waterfowl and penguins. Gay birds. The homosexual behavior has been documented in wild Australian black swans, which sometimes form threesomes, involving two males as they establish a nest site. Additionally, two male penguins made headlines after they paired up in a zoo. Scientists believe that it may be the result of mercury pollution from mining operations, which changes sex hormones. Number 3. Western gulls. Convergent evolution has given them a resemblance to the huge albatrosses, along with a similar mating system. Again, sometimes involving two females. The more expensive gull pairs have even engaged in mounting behaviors. Number 2. Giraffes. Giraffe couple young male giraffes prior to mating with a female. Sometimes engage in same-sex encounters and short-term alliances. Activities may include tongue kissing, neck massaging, and hugs, as well as full body contact and nuzzling. Number 1. Dragonflies. It's a fact. Dragonflies are among the most highly evolved predators in the insect world and they are also among the most demonstrative, engaging in spectacular in-flight ballots as well as serious sensual encounters with other dragonflies. Investigations have revealed a surprisingly high frequency of matings between same-sex dragonflies.
My point. Why do we make it so hard for humans just to be?
Well, the science wasn't there back when the Bible was written, right?
Say that again?
The science wasn't there when the Bible was written. They saw it as somehow against God. And I don't know who wrote the Bible, but it seemed to be the word of God. But there was a wonderful author from America by the name of Mark Twain, who wrote a book many years ago called Letters from the Earth. It was ostensibly, and it was banned for years because of the nature of his thinking, that he was trying to say that Satan, who had once been an archangel, had gotten banned and was sent to earth as a punishment to watch these people that God had created. And he writes the letters back to his buddies, the archangels, with certain observations. And if you haven't read it, it's a great read. It gives you a balance of the rhetoric from the pulpit versus the rhetoric from someone who has just kind of observed mankind. But basically, he said, you know, in the creation of the world, God did make mistakes. Now, for people who are 100% God-fearing, will say, no, God doesn't make mistakes. And I, you know, if you explain to me why some people get spina bifida, or some people get MS and others don't, or you have an allergy to aspirin and someone else doesn't. We're all a giant experiment. And it is shown in the literature that the homosexuality is about 20% of the populace. Of all animals. It's very frequent. It's just less frequent than heterosexuality. And if you haven't seen Kinsey, you must see that movie. It'll give you more of an education than you ever wanted.
What is it?
Kinsey. It's the theory of the guy that did the Kinsey report and how he did his research.
Okay.
The thing is, obviously, the randomness of our sexuality is on a genome. They can't tie it to any particular genetic, you don't pass it down. It's just the randomness of nature. So maybe there's some other flaw in that human different from heterosexual or homosexuality that then would keep them from procreating between each other. People, all of us need love and affection. I don't know.
Bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, we all need tenderness and love and partnership. So I'm in grad school in my 40s when I'm learning about all this. I learned more about deviation from normal sexual identification than I ever wanted to know. Also, the number of sexually transmitted diseases. It's staggering that we've lasted this long as a race, as a species. And I mean, come on, jump in here, anybody.
Yeah, you know, I brought this up because, like you said, bottom line, people just want to be loved. They want to be in relationships where they are loved and they can give love freely. I was having a conversation. My niece, she also came out, and we were having a conversation this weekend. And, you know, men and women, we have these conversations where we talk like that's the only kind of relationship there is, and that's the only conflicts that we have in those kind of relationships. But, you know, she was sharing about how being with another woman has its issues too. So it's not about that. It's just really finding love, you know. Let me hear from the younger generation. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I know there's one thing that's really, I have to say, that's confusing me, and maybe you can help me understand all of the, what do you call them? LGBTQ plus, all of these.
Plus.
Say it again.
LGBTQIA plus.
Plus, those are those, oh no, and the pronouns? I know we started touching on that a little bit last week. Yeah, educate us, because, you know, we are not as knowledgeable about this, but I think, yeah, inform us.
So the L is lesbian, the G is gay, LGB is bi, LGBT, T is trans or transsexual, transgender, Q is queer, or some people say questioning is a debate. I believe is intersex, and I think is asexual, and the plus is
Everything else.
Everything else that you,
everything else.
it's a lot.
Somebody could be all of the above.
Is that possible?
There's a frequency. Well, bisexuality is an interesting thing because Kinsey proved that there's only about, I can't remember the percentage, but it's lower than 50% of all humans have admitted to having had at least one encounter with same-sex partner in their lifetime. So that most people fall under the bell curve, but there are these asymptotes out here where they don't fit the normal profile. And I hate that word. I hate that word.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So because normal is what's normal for you. And what's normal for me is not what's normal for Tobias.
Exactly.
I think, but there are going to be places where we meet, which is that feeling of love and warmth and the feeling of being held and appreciated and validated and found to be real. I mean, well, that's a common human endeavor, regardless of gender, regardless of sexual orientation. And it's taken so many people, so many years to live as you did, Tobias, and you got to your freedom very young compared to him.
Yeah.
And I know a person in the field, a music field, who is out there as a transgender male, or no, he trans to female. He was an extremely well-paid jazz bass player. And he used to play for Mel Torme, for those of you who have ever heard of him. Great guy. I met him online. We've been chatting just as friends. And his story is available online. He's quite the thing. We just need to understand each other's needs and wants.
Yes.
And respect them.
Yes.
I mean, I don't care if somebody likes doorknobs. No matter to me.
Does that person identify currently as male or female?
Very definitely a female, completely, and very, very hard time in transition. Her story is quite compelling. And but to know that she was, and everybody knew that even though this happened 25 years ago, but there was just such a small percentage of people taking the risk.
Right.
There's always the pioneers, the people that come up. Have any of you seen any of the presidents, the first women, the first lady?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know about Eleanor? I never knew. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Innuendos.
Well, it's not an innuendo anymore.
Not anymore. Right.
Wait, what about it? I missed it. Sorry.
Eleanor apparently was having a relationship with a female and her employee, and he knew. She told him. There's some who was this guy? The in the FBI. Oh, J. Edgar Hoover had her follow, and there were pictures that were given to Franklin. And he confronted her with, and she said, well, yeah, and there's a scene. If you haven't seen the series, it's really well done.
Spoiler alert.
Huh?
I said spoiler alert.
That's just one incident. It's not just her, but there are several female first lady. All of them are female first ladies.
Yeah.
Throughout history. So in the 50s, it's not talking about just that topic, but that was a subject I'd never heard before.
Wow.
And I thought, well, I don't care. That explains why she could climb down into the mines without fear.
Right.
If she could have a homosexual relationship with a female in 1940, think about it.
Right.
She's in such a position of power though as well, so
Yeah.
maybe had a little bit more freedom. And the fact that FDR, I guess, was okay with it. He had his own little outside
Exactly.
liaison. So
Peccadillos, didn't he?
he may have been relieved for his own reasons, but
Eleanor was married to which one?
Franklin. FDR
FDR.
was president for he was elected 3 times. It was because of him that they cut it off at 2.
When
The
was
thing is-
John? Wait, John is his brother?
No, there's no Franklin Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Roosevelt was his
Kennedy.
cousin. His
Talking
cousin.
about Kennedy.
Okay. Franklin was president during the Second World War. And Teddy was the guy on the horse, and that was his cousin. He had been president also. All of these guys that were in power had certain sexual peccadillos. There's no question about it. Some of them were buying sex. I mean, the whole thing with Marilyn and Kennedy, that was when the press respected the right of the president to have privacy. There's no such thing as privacy for anyone anymore.
Yeah.
There are good things about it and really bad things about it. And I think the good things, Tobias, was that it made it possible for you to even talk about who you are.
Yes.
And to be received, like in this climate, as a welcome addition to this topic.
Exactly.
Because you had your own, I talk about women being assaulted, but if you were identified as a gay person, somebody's going to beat the shit out of you, right? Pretty much they would know if they found out, they'd probably try to hurt you.
Yeah, back in the day.
So there is much to be talked about with rights. Everybody's rights are impinged upon. It's not just women. Black lives matter. Hispanic lives matter. Everybody's life matters. So
yeah, let me ask Amber, because this is also a topic. How do you identify?
I usually identify as lesbian.
Okay, lesbian. And when did you know this? Like, what age? What was your journey like?
21.
Okay.
But I feel like I didn't really have a coming out. I don't consider it a coming out just because I was older. I know that I did like girls when I was younger though, but I wasn't, I was like raised to not even think of that as a possibility. So I just I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it until I was away from my family when I went to college. And I was like, I could like think for myself and not be influenced by them. That's when I noticed that I didn't really have any interest in them. So yeah, but I don't know. I didn't have the same, I don't consider it coming out, because I didn't have the same like trouble with like people who knew that they were gay or lesbian or bi when they were like 12 and 13. I know somebody who was really struggling with that. Yeah, I actually know a few people who were really struggling with that. It was much harder for them. I was older, I was in college. It was like, it wasn't really a big thing like that.
and if you don't, how old are you now, Amber?
I'm 30.
Okay. Again, you're young enough to have been part of the swell that the public was becoming more aware of the frequency of lesbian and bisexual activity. And thanks to the Kinsey report, you got to go back to this because that was done in the 50s.
Okay.
The thing is that people didn't want to hear it because they were afraid of it. And they were mostly, homophobia is not so much about hating the person that is gay. It's about the fear within themselves that they might be seduced or drawn into it. And they're afraid of themselves. And I cannot tell you, as middle class white American female in America, there's enough to be afraid of without having to worry about what your sexual identification is. And I see little kids, you can see them when they're playing, how they have, everybody is born with both estrogen and testosterone.
Masculine, feminine, yeah.
And testosterone is what drives everybody's sex drive. If a woman doesn't have enough testosterone, she's considered the frigid woman, doesn't want sex, she's not interested. So we have to thank the males for sharing with us some of their energy. But I don't think most people are educated in that area. It doesn't come out. I got it in college. I had 4 kids already. I was 42 and I'm reading this stuff.
Right?
What?
I said, right.
So if you think about, have you ever seen a picture of an androgynous child?
No.
If you don't think there are mistakes, this is a child born with both sexual genitalia.
Ah.
And they literally have a small penis and a vagina. Now they're infertile, but parents will do sex assignment when they're little. Often they'll make them girls, and maybe they don't want to be girls.
Oh, wow.
Hermaphrodite. I feel like
Yeah, that's the one hermaphrodite.
Or Turner syndrome, I think, is one.
There's
syndrome.
There's so many syndromes. Klinefelter. Missing a hormone, not a hormone. What is it?
These are like these terms I feel like are much newer. I don't think any identity is new per se.
Oh, no, you're right.
But I think that I think science tries to explain things that have always been. And we don't really need names for it, but there have always been there's such, have you heard of a two-spirit person?
Break it down. Maybe in another, if you explain it in
In what
another way.
context?
Amber, your sound is a little weirder than usual. I wonder what that is.
Yeah, it sounds like you're like in a valley, Amber.
Is the sound covered up?
No, hold on.
It's like robotic almost.
What about now?
Still the same. But go ahead, finish your thought, and we'll work on it later. I don't want to interrupt you.
I don't know what happened. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not really sure how to describe two-spirit people. I guess maybe you could describe them as, I don't know, non-binary. What would you call it, Tobias? What would you call it? Two-spirit?
Nina's raising her hand.
Oh, go ahead, Nina.
My very light understanding of it is in certain indigenous culture, they believe that there's two spirits within them. I don't know if you could say it's like two gender, because I think it transcends that, but I think it's that people don't identify with either, and it's something that transcends gender completely. It's like you have two spirits within you that kind of work in tandem together to make you who you are.
It almost sounds godlike to me.
Yeah,
to me,
to say, I want to say most indigenous cultures.
Your sound is so bad. We're missing the substance of what you're saying, and I'm trying to figure out what that is.
I can fine. I don't know.
Maybe come closer to your microphone or something. I don't know what that is. You've never sounded like that before.
Is it still like connected to the microphone that you're using?
No, I'm just using the phone.
Okay. But go ahead.
You want me to go out and come back in?
Do you think she should go out and come back in?
Yeah, try that.
Okay. So I'll piggyback on what Nina was just saying, how she was explaining that. It sounds to me like, that those people would be godlike, because from my personal experience with God, I don't think God, men have taught that God is a he. They that worship God must worship him in spirit and in truth. Everything is he. But to me, God is no gender. So the two-spirit person, maybe I'm one of those. I don't know.
I think if you looked at a child who, they always call it in girls being a tomboy, and they called boys sissies. I think those people are two spirits. They're coping with the whole hormonal construct. the fact that there are so many couples or so many babies born through heterosexual sex is quite phenomenal. The odds are so against it. And yet it seems that people get pregnant on the first time, because I think it has to do with passion, but without heterosexual sex, we don't propagate the species. That's necessary.
Right.
Now they're starting to clone people. I don't know, maybe sex will be taboo after a while. What
Can you
a,
hear me now?
what a shame.
Yeah.
A bit better.
Pardon me?
It's better.
I think it sounds a little bit better.
Go ahead,
How
Amber.
is it, Sarah?
Say it again. Say something.
How is it? Can you hear me?
Oh, much better. Much
Okay.
better. I don't
Oh,
know what that was.
I don't know what happened.
Probably a glitch. So what were you saying about the two-spirit person?
Oh, I was saying, I think in most indigenous cultures across the world, there's like a reverence for two-spirit people as being closer to God. And I feel like that's been a thing much longer than the LGBTQIA plus community has been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of control and manipulation in religious doctrine, trying to dictate the way that people live and what kind of relationships that they should have. Also, the video about the gay animals, I wanted to say, I feel like they're over-sexualizing the animals' behavior just a little bit. Because it didn't, I was like, what makes this gay? But yeah, I don't know.
Well, they're choosing the same-sex mate. They may just be practicing for future events, but
Oh, that is actually one of the things they said, Sandy. For
practicing
giraffes.
But I think that humans are like projecting their own ideas of what mating is onto these different species. Because
No, because the male too, they have sexual intercourse
with the other males.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're also in the plant family. There's also, I hear my daughter was kind of breaking that down to me too. That's what started opening my eyes, because I had never heard about anything like that before.
Plants.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the androgyny of it.
But that's what I'm saying though. It's like, why do we can we just naturally do and be who we naturally are?
No, because we are being shaped by our parents and our larger culture. They're trying to shape us and to be like everybody else.
It's control. That's what I mean.
It's control. And what is the young woman's, the long blonde hair? She's coming in. What is your name?
Suzanne?
Suzanne.
Oh, she said your name's not on.
I don't want to call you iPhone.
That's Nina's mom.
That's my mom.
Nina's mom.
Well, what a great, you were on last week, correct?
Nina was on last week, and this is her mom.
But weren't you on as well?
Yeah, she was. Nina was on.
Okay.
I was, my mom wasn't.
All right, the thing is that we are dealing with rules that I was about 60 and I had this insight one day. I was driving to work and I thought, I was born into a world where the rules were already crafted. You know, and some of them make sense, like stop signs and public safety rules, but I didn't get to decide them. I didn't get to have a referendum and vote on them. So these all exist, and people who are in power, like religious leaders and such, like to make rules that they can keep their flock together and make sure that they marry within that religion and or our cultural divide. And so it's easier to control people when they're all the same.
Right.
How many of you belong to a group like bowling or tennis or baseball or
I wish.
a book club or something like that, right? I mean, those are the groups you join. We like to hang with people like ourselves. I don't care if it's the same kind of music, the same kind of literature. It makes us feel safer. It's an anthropological imperative. We gather in groups to feel safer. And even the Air Force figured it out in planes. When the planes are flying in a group, they're safer from attack. So if we have an imperative that's within us for survival's sake, to be connected with each other, keeping the natives from getting restless is the best way to keep control. So the rule, if you break the rules, you're going to be banned. And in certain cultures, when you got old, you were expected to walk off into the Neverland and just die because you're no longer productive to that society. We don't have such archaic rules today, but some of the cultures in New Zealand and places like that, they still have it. Elephants are supposed to go off and die. We have something that's primordial that we came with. Some parts of it are still that we came out of, whatever, the primordial ooze. The fight over the Big Bang versus evolution, it's been amazing. This topic is so filled with areas of research that it's scary. And the older I get, I see how the pieces connect. The more I study, the more I see, oh, wow, I didn't think of that before. It never occurred to me that such and such was happening. I remember when I went to college, my mother said to me, now you be careful in those dormitories. I said, why? There's some girls that are funny. And I said, I didn't know what she meant. That was how naive I was. So then I came into a girl's room one day and I found out what she meant. And I'm sorry. And I left. But I was not repulsed by it. I just thought, that's interesting. And if you can have that, be interested in the differentiation between us all and appreciate those differences. That's how we're going to get on as a world culture.
Yeah. I when I was little, so the first sexual abuse was a female cousin. It was horrible. And from then on, it seemed like women and girls were always attracted to me. And even to date, I'm older, but I'm not attracted to women. But it's interesting to me. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but for me, it's okay. Like, it's not weird to me. And I just want to know how to navigate being among those who, this is your life. This is who you are, because again, I have family members who have come out and I received.
Funny with Tobias?
What did you say?
Tobias just sat here and declared his private self. Do you feel uncomfortable connecting with him?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. No, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing weird to me.
Char loves me.
I love you, baby. I love you for more reasons than one. Never. And I've never made Tobias feel uncomfortable. I knew from because you how do you say it? You're he, him,
He, they.
or he, they.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Pronouns. Let's go on a little journey.
Okay.
So follow me.
We're gonna extend the show. Let me just establish that.
Just follow me on this journey, and eventually it'll come back tenfold.
Okay.
So I took a class at Columbia, I think my junior year. It was LGBTQ plus history, and basically we learned about how and why about LGBT history. So basically we started in the beginning and about basically before any structure existed, and people were just being people. And eventually went through how structure eventually made it how it is, and how we have capitalism, and pretty much that's the reason why how we are, and why there's certain labels for everything is really not needed. But to explain that is that the way that I think of pronouns they're just letters, they're just words that we have placed a gender to for some strange reason that I still haven't figure it out. I mean, I know why, but I don't know why.
Right.
But they're basically just words that other people want to be called as themselves, just like a name. So for me, I choose he, they, because I like the way that he sounds to me, and then they, because I don't see myself as completely like strong, big, muscular male. Like when I'm around like a group of guys, I'll try to like do that. But like honestly, I'm very chill, I'm very laid back. Like I'd rather not. But of course, gender is a spectrum, and that spectrum can go from far right to very femme to far left, you know, very mask or anywhere in between. And that's where pronouns fit into that. There can be someone that identifies like very femme, but their pronouns can be he, they, or they, them, or anything like that. It doesn't matter. It's just words that should not have a gender attached to them that they do. So that's pretty much my long spiel on pronouns.
So, okay, it's funny that you say this. Thank you so much. This is what I meant to play. I found another one again in my research. Can you pull this up, Tobias, on YouTube? Dr. Phil had a gentleman on with a couple.
Not Dr. Phil.
But somebody else was handling this, and they were talking about, I think the title is "You Don't Get to Choose a Pronoun." I don't know if you all had seen that. Okay, it's pretty interesting. I'm gonna have Tobias pull it up. Suzanne, how you doing? I haven't heard anything from you, but you're muted.
I went upstairs to gather my. I'm thinking about. I'm stuck on that duality question, and don't we all want to have comfort with our male and female aspects, no matter how you express your sexuality?
Exactly.
I mean, isn't it? And maybe these I'm going back to that comment about the two spirits. I'm going to look that up.
I love that actually, because it reminds me of the women who run with the wolves.
Yes. Oh yeah. Well,
Suzanne.
she talks about the dual nature of women, and I'm getting very specific here, and I don't mean to go off on a tangent when we're talking about pronouns and such. I'm just telling you where my mind is. She talks
the topic is women on women's rights, and then we're just like deviating.
Yeah, I mean, it's just astounding to me the Madonna horror complex just there. And she talks about how women have a dual nature, and we do have a dual nature. You can breastfeed your child, which I did, and go hang with your man and have a nice, excuse me, Nina, but like a sweaty, nice time. I mean,
come on.
You're a whore and you're a Madonna. You're really.
Oh my God, I did not
think that. Well, get over it. Well, that's how we.
You didn't have to say sweaty though.
All right, have a nice date. I'll say it there. My point is if women and CHAR, you touched on this. If women were comfortable with that aspect, those aspects of themselves, and I think the world would respond differently. I met a young woman. I host a few jams in the area where I live. And I met this young woman, young relative to me, about mid-30s. And I said, we were talking, she does drumming circles. She does suicide prevention. She's just a remarkable young lady. And I said, God, I really want to do something with female empowerment, something. And she goes, why? You already have all the power. You need to, not just me specifically, but all women. You, third person, we have the power. And she wasn't saying it in she just said it in such a confident, kind of with a little bit of sass, which just made it even cooler. And just said, we have the power. It's time we own it.
Yes.
The males have been afraid of that power for a long time. We give birth, they can't.
So many women are. So if we are, men are going to be afraid. They want the little wife at home cook. And I'm generalizing it. I'm going back to the 50s. I wasn't born yet in the 50s, but certainly was raised by a mother who was in the 50s, who, was in that whole environment. But, we have to become comfortable that there's the woman at home and then there's the woman outside. And JFK is such a perfect example of that. He's got beautiful Jackie, who speaks French and helped him in his international. She was very influential in the international scene because he's back then being even a Catholic was not cool. And he was going out to Europe, and she was much more, what's the word? Cultured, and she spoke different languages, and she helped him a lot. Yet he still was allowed and almost expected to have a mistress. The horror. And I think that's something I have felt since I was young. Always, I never understood that. And my mom was we're not overly religious, but you don't have to be. You can feel it in society. You don't have to be a Bible thumping whatever. You can feel it in society. I feel it in society. That double standard, just you're a whore, women are blamed for rape in other countries. Little girls are tossed over cliffs. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Especially in India.
To me, I think they're what?
Baby girls are just killed, because in India, that's the worst thing that can happen.
Oh, female infanticide, absolutely.
Isn't that China too?
It's like, so instead of changing the rights in the laws and the culture, they punish little girls. It's just, anyway, I think I would love to spread that message. Sorry, lost my voice recently. That if we can empower that ourselves, and I love seeing that young woman, Gabby, who just texted me today, who said, well, you already have it. And I thought, that's a better mindset. Instead of, there's the chief of the Cherokee, the first female chief. And I think her name is Maneater is the last name, and it may be Wilma. I'm not 100% sure. Okay. She made the same point in her circle. Yeah, she's a badass. No, but she said, I am not going to go ask men for permission to have power.
Yes.
That's not the way it should be.
That's right.
You have to embody it and act like RBG. Look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh God.
My God. She asked, but she really, really made an impact. And if anybody hasn't seen her special, not the movie about her, but the actual interview, she was but she had a very supportive husband. Her husband was also a lawyer. Both went to Harvard. I think she stayed up. He had cancer. They're both in law school. They had a child. She'd stay up till 4, help him with his studies, take care of the child, and then do her own homework. And she kept those habits for her entire life till she passed away last year. But
wow.
So to have that male, that supportive male who looks at you as, yes, not just wife and mother, but you are also RBG, you're a lawyer. You are gifted. You're Supreme Court justice. That was pretty unusual at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, she was 90 when she died. So I mean, she came up in the 40s, went to college. Yeah. Only woman in her class. So I'm just.
No, she wasn't the only woman.
Few examples, but you have to. You don't need to dominate men. They're already afraid of you anyway. Trust me. And I'm saying that for my own experience. I'm not speaking for any other, orientation or anything. I'm just saying, I sense there's a lot of fear, and I'm 57 now. I've been around a lot of men from all backgrounds and whatever. And it's just all the same. They've had the power so long, and I think they're afraid of losing power over. So when women
power don't move over easily.
Well,
those who have the power are not going to say, sure, you can have my job.
But we need to share it. We need to share it. I want the same thing as everybody else. I want respect in my relationship. I want financial sovereignty. I sure as hell want sovereignty over my body. I have 2 dogs. I mean, enough of it. How do you justify now? I hope we're getting to a point where it's just unimaginable to justify rape and sexual abuse of anybody, really. There's got to be, and my final big statement will be, Joseph Campbell's another favorite of mine, mythologist. He was a professor at Sarah Lawrence College. He passed away, got in the 80s probably, taught at a women's college. He says that we don't need to get rid of religions per se. Absolutely not. If you're Christian, be Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever.
Right.
Jewish,
your choice.
But there needs to be a myth for the whole world that hugs all of those things. That's not the right word, but supports everybody's human rights. Who cares who you go to bed with? For God's sake, who cares who you hang out with? Who cares what part of town you're from? Who cares? Everybody deserves the same rights to safety. like Sandy, you were talking about, say it is scary to walk down the street. I walked my dog the other day. There's a woman down the street with dementia. There's all these cop cars. And my first thought is, oh my God, you know, I didn't know what was going on, but I'm just saying it's too bad that our basic rights aren't, even as human beings, are just not
respected or acknowledged,
and just understood. You shouldn't have to fight for that.
Shouldn't have to fight for it.
You shouldn't have to fight for it. Why the hell?
You have to start out with the idea that when you're born, that you're equal with everybody else in the room, and that doesn't happen.
You sure as hell are.
I went
sure as hell are. I mean,
I had a guy that taught me at UCSB who came out of the Chicago school, by the way. His name was Tomatsu Shibutani, and he had served in World War II in the Japanese regiment. Along with some other young recruits, he had to go through boot camp from places all over the country. And this is, being in the military was similar to going to college. You got exposed to other cultures. And he said this was the most amazing thing. He wrote a definitive work on social process theory. It's a really good read because he doesn't write it in a scientific way. He talks about how we become socialized, but that his premise is that we all, every day, we're processing millions of bits of data for survival, just to stay alive. We have to make good judgments. We have to know that trees won't come and knock us down and that tigers will. I mean, it's that basic, down to the basic core of it. And he was laying on his bunk and he went into the chow room one day, and it was this real tall, dark-haired kid. And now Tom is very definitely Japanese. There's no guesswork about it. But this young recruit was standing there and didn't know what he was. So he says, "Are you Polish?" And Tom had just enough of a sarcastic sense of humor. And he says, "Oh yeah, I'm Polish." And he goes back to his bunk and lays down on the bed and says, "What would make this guy think, what do I have in common with a Polish person?" What made him identify me? You were talking about labeling things. Labels help us survive the day. We know, we see images and they're either scary or they're not, and we can walk with safety when they're not, and we kind of get protective when they aren't. So he's laying there and he came up with this theory that the only thing he had in common with a Polish person was that he had black hair. And he was trying to fuss around as to why this particular kid, who happened to have been from the Ozarks. And in the Ozarks, you're really isolated. That's a community in its own. If you've ever been to Appalachia or have seen folks who have lived in these very, very small enclaves, they haven't seen anything else. So he's trying to make sense of his world, and Tom is trying to figure out why he's calling him that. We all identify things around us. We don't feel safe unless we have people around us that we feel safe with. How do we define who's safe? What are the characteristics? And a young graduate student made me and my classmates one day to think. He said, "I want you to go home with this assignment. I want you to think about the scariest person you would have to be in an elevator with by yourself. Don't filter it. Write about it. What is it that makes them scary?" And I went, wow. I was 42. Most of the students were 20. And what I saw was that my advanced years helped me understand this assignment more than them, because I had a flash that scared me. I am presently a grandmother and great-grandmother to mixed race children. I have no issues about folks being Black or Hispanic or Chinese or Japanese. I am accepting and appreciating other cultures. But what shocked me that day was me confronting my own fears that I didn't even know were there. So I thought to myself, well, what scares me is a very large, shabbily dressed Black male. And I would be, because I'm small, I'm 5'3", that I would be afraid of being assaulted or robbed or raped. And then I went home and I went, where did that come from? And then I realized the important elements were large, shabbily dressed indicated poor. They might rob me. It didn't have anything to do with Blackness, but I had to actually think about that to filter that out. And I wrote about that in class, because we don't get taught to think like that. That is critical thinking.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
And I was in my
honest.
Exactly.
So I had to confront my own racism and didn't know it was in there. And I had a white instructor who was teaching my first counseling class, and she came in and said, "I'm a recovering racist," to the whole class. And I go, "Yeah, so what does that got to do with anything?" We all had to understand different cultures in order to help people solve their own dilemmas within inside their own language.
Mhm,
I'm telling you, there's been so much. I'm so glad I went to school later in life
mhm.
to have the eyes to see a little bit further than just what's in front of me or in my own house. We have to know who's scary. What are you afraid of, Tobias? Do you have fears?
Yeah, I have fears. I guess one of my fears would be feeling alone, but everyone else is there.
Alone in a crowded room.
I mean, when I was in high school, I was like really depressed at that time. And like I felt that feeling like a lot. And like as time went on and I went to therapy and I started to understand like why and like to cope and to move on through that, I knew that I never wanted to feel like that again. I mean, I won't say that I haven't, but like I know what to do in order to cope because I am the type of person that when I'm alone, I like my own like personal space that I will isolate.
Yeah, yeah.
And I won't realize that I isolate myself until my friends call and they're like, "Hey, we haven't talked in like 6 months." And I'm like, "Oh." So, but like I'm learning, like, especially now, like that, especially like since most of my friends are back home, that I need to talk to my friends more often. I mean, like they call me more often too, like, "Hey, like I haven't talked to you in like a week." It's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot," you know.
Right. That's
My-
awesome that they reach out. Yeah.
Do you have a supportive
Interesting
family,
point.
Tobias?
Um, I have my family tries to understand. Um, I will say that my mom, like, no matter what, my mom will always try to understand no matter what she does. She may not understand like right now,
Yeah.
but she constantly like wants to understand. And she'll constantly like call me and ask me like, "What does this mean?" And I'm like, this is what
Oh,
it
so
means."
Good.
Well, that's good. So she's growing too and learning, and
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
that's all we're here to do is grow and learn, right? I mean,
Exactly. Have that conversation, those conversations. Did you find that video?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you want to play that?
There should be no construct of gender, just sex. You're either male or female.
Right.
And someone feeling in a mental, emotional way that they don't identify with the sex that they have been biologically created as and assigned at birth based on their genitalia. If they don't feel that way, that there's no construct that describes that, experiences that.
Well, that's got nothing to do with the reality. So you can feel however you want. I mean, I could sit here and say that I feel like a tomato plant, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually in those things. So your self-perception, you can have whatever self-perception you want, but you can't expect me to take part in that self-perception or to take part in this kind of charade, this theatrical production. You don't get your own pronouns, just like you don't get your own prepositions or your own adjectives. It's like if I were to tell you, my adjectives are handsome and brilliant, and no matter whenever you're talking about me, you have to describe me as handsome and brilliant because that's how I identify. It makes no sense. You don't get your own pronouns. That's grammar. That's language.
So you think it's a delusion? Someone is self-delusional.
Yeah, I think it's delusion. It could be a mental illness. It could be it's a lot of different things. With children, there's also just a basic confusion that all kids have. Like that's why when you hear a parent say, "Oh, my 4-year-old son came to me and said that I'm a girl now, and so that's what I'm gonna raise him as a girl." No, you're a 4-year-old. I have 4 kids. When a 4-year-old boy comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm a girl," here's a good follow-up question. What is a girl? Ask him what he means by that. What do you mean by girl? And when you ask him that, here's what he'll tell you. He will tell you what he really means is that he wants to do some of the things that girls do, like play with the dollhouse, or he likes the color pink. That's fine. Play with the dollhouse, but you're still a boy.
That's almost too, that's violating. It's because if you substitute pronouns with anything else that you call yourself by, and he's dismissive of your existence. Wow. It speaks of a very, very what is it, duality that you spoke of, Suzanne? The duality of life, where somebody's got to put you here or here, and that's the only two places you got.
Exactly.
Republican or Democrat, or this, it's kind of like, what difference does that make? Can't hear you. You're not on.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Suzanne, you're muted.
Go.
Everybody can.
There I am. I just don't know why people care. Good old Betty White said, I have something on my Instagram. It's just a post. It's just real basic. She says, why is everybody else in everybody else's business? Take care of your own life. If your own life is so fantastic, come on. I just don't get why people care. I don't care. I want people to be treated well. I don't care what they do on their private time. That's their business.
Exactly. Everybody just want to be loved and respected.
Keep up with the Joneses concept. If you are a part of the majority group, then you can feel yourself to be better than the folks that aren't. I don't care what the majority is. If you're a Baptist and the Baptists are having a great old time and the Catholics aren't, you're feeling pretty good about that. And it's the tendency, that's human nature. It's not so much, it's not a genetic thing. It's all about the culture, the acculturation and how they were socialized.
Right.
Amber, you have said little, but what you said was powerful. I know that your wheels are turning. Would you talk some more, please?
Yes, Amber, you're muted. Amber, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't really know how to articulate it. Cause I told Char before we came live, my nerves are really fried today. I have a very overactive nervous system, and my brain is but so I spoke a little bit about the issue of sameness during the last live. There's this sort of criminalization of otherness, of being what is considered to be outside of the norm. There's a fear of other, there's a fear of being othered. There's a fear of the unknown. There's this mindset that you're dangerous. If I don't understand you, if I don't know what you are, if I can't anticipate your next moves, you're a danger. To me, it's I want to say it's like a colonizer mentality.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know, it's just not normal to me. It's not natural. There are all of these restrictions. I consider it to be new. I consider it to be, there's I don't know how to say it. The structure of our society, it relies on us being separated and categorized and very rigid with things. That's not natural. That's very, very unnatural to me. And I can't make sense of it. I just know that these things are put in place to control people. And that's why I reject it.
Yeah, it's never going to make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
So I guess the purpose of us getting together is acknowledging what's happening and trying to find ways to not allow it to happen to us.
Okay, hold on. There's one more thing. You wanted me to say this before and I forgot. I'm looking at my notes because I'm a nerd. So I'm looking at it from a spiritual perspective as I look at all things. And I think that queer people, two-spirit people, whatever you want to call them, right? Bring a sort of energetic balance to the world just by existing. Because I think it brings awareness to the fact that we're all spirits having a human experience, and the spirit takes precedence over the human form. Well, that's my belief.
Yes.
And we forget that we forget that we're just a vessel
That's right.
until we see somebody who is living in alignment with their spirit as opposed to their body, as opposed to their appearance. And it jars people out of that like matrix mentality for a second, and they like don't know how to function. So I don't know, queer people in general are very important to me. I think that we need them. It's like us, I shouldn't say them. We need queer people to bring balance.
Do you think that the queer, they're that much different than us, or is it just we're not as
No.
tuned? Right, we're not
Right.
in tune
It's
with
about
this.
awareness. I think it's
Yeah.
about self-awareness and being in tune with your with self.
And spirit.
Right, with spirit.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
God,
Well,
that's great.
Deep, right? Deep. Did you
Yeah,
have
that's
anything else?
great.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Suzanne?
No, I just, Amber, I love what you just said. It's
Oh.
really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had a lot of stuff in your notes. Is there anything that you could bring to the table?
I do.
Yeah, go for it.
But I mean, I don't want to derail the conversation.
Amber, go ahead and speak.
Please do.
That's what a conversation is.
I'm being a Capricorn
go.
There was back to the Roe v. Wade issue. I do think that millennials and Gen Z they have a different mindset when it comes to procreation, obviously. But I heard somebody say this actually on TikTok, that there is part of the plan with Roe v. Wade is to force millennials and Gen Z to have kids because we don't have the same like traditional mindset of older generations that we have to just go to school, get a job, get married, have kids, blah, blah, blah. Like we don't live life like that. So maybe there's a fear of like the population going down. I mean, there's all sort of like weird things, structural things that go into it, but they're saying that reversing the Roe v. Wade, which I don't even know why they even dug this thing up in the first place because it's been closed for years.
All right.
They're saying that they're doing that because it takes us longer, like Gen Z, millennials, it takes us longer to reach financial stability to have a family. And there's a broader range of identities as we've been speaking about, which means there's a broader range of like different kinds of relationships, different kinds of family structures. And there's also less of a desire to have and raise children because of the state of the world.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
As far as raising children who are a product of rape, sorry, I know that's very like triggering for me to say, but I know somebody like that personally in my family, and I see the difference. I see the difference in the way that, and actually it's not just children who are the product of rape or, sexual assault. I see a lot of cases where like the child is a reminder of maybe like a bad relationship that was once good but ended, bad. Children who are all around unwanted, people who are not ready to raise children, and just the impact that it has on the child. In the case of a child who was, the product of rape, they're a constant reminder to their mother specifically of like the worst thing that's ever happened to her. And she's expected to
love this child, care for the child, nurture. That's impossible.
You have to, you can't suppress things like that. It's
possible with therapy if they just go on through their life and have to it's called a revivification. Seeing the face of the child is the reminder of the initial trauma, and it just keeps repeating itself. The child then becomes the person blamed instead of the person who actually did it.
Exactly. I mean, how about even the mother carrying this child?
Right.
Imagine the trauma of this baby, this life growing in her, and that baby's feeling every emotion.
Right.
Even from then, it's a lot. It's like in the DNA, it's in our system.
That's more, personally, I think that you talk about it being in DNA. I think when somebody's been traumatized like that, it's a behavioral approach. The mother having difficulty with her own issues about accepting what happened, or at least putting it in the place where it belongs, that she didn't cause it. She doesn't have to feel guilty. All of that gets pushed down on the child. It's because they don't know what to do with all of those intense feelings. We have stigmatized therapy in this country. It's only becoming popular now. It's like when in the days when we were kids, I was a kid anyway, if you had braces, people laughed at you. Then it became the thing to have.
Popular.
Have the braces.
Yes.
Popular. Having your therapist, people say that now. Oh yeah, I go to my therapist at least once a week. It's okay now. But people who were traumatized 30, 40 years ago, they didn't have those luxuries.
Right.
You had to keep all of those traumatic moments inside, keep it in the family, don't tell anybody. Meanwhile, parents were doing incest on their kids and all kinds of stuff, and the kids were suffering immensely from those traumas. It's really kind of sad.
As the recent, let me put Carly down. That shooting in Texas, the school shooting in Texas, I was wondering personally if there were any pro-lifers on that police force, because one of the biggest issues with this reversing Roe v. Wade is that the government / policymakers, they have no intention of caring for a child after it is born.
Right.
I'm not sure where their pro-life stance comes from, but I mean, do you guys know like the details? I didn't want to know the details of I was avoiding this. I was really avoiding looking into the shooting, but you know that the cops went in and got their own kids and prevented the other parents from going into the building to get their kids. And they left the active shooter in the building for an hour. This is a police force that has the town, I forget, Uvalde. I don't know how you say that, the town. They have the police force has its own SWAT team. So it's not that they are not, trained to handle a situation like that. SWAT is trained to handle a variety of situations, right? And the police station was 3 minutes away from the school. So the police came to the school, they went inside, they got their own children, nobody else. And they wouldn't allow the parents to go in and get their kids. And it's like, that I feel like there's a double
standard.
Yeah, because you can't be pro-life, and I'm sure that there are pro-lifers in that police, like I'm positive. You can't have the stance of being pro-life and let people's children be massacred.
I think the idea of the generosity, but a lot of people become heroes because they respond to a moment of crisis and help others really well. And then I think the majority of people, we don't want to think this, but I think in general, people are pretty selfish. They take care of themselves and they don't care about anybody else.
Not everybody.
We're seeing it from the top down. We're seeing it from the top down. That's what our role models are.
There was a mother, I don't know how she did this, but there was a mother who was able to get past the barricades, get into the school to get her own children, but she also let out, I think, 21 or 22 kids. She took out an entire class.
Come on.
Two classes, I think it was. She took out. Come on. So it's like, this is an untrained civilian parent.
Right.
I don't understand. I don't understand.
That. Yeah. Yeah.
She was like the 9/11 firefighters and the first responders who put their own lives on the line.
That is what the police have been doing. That's what the police have been doing.
Well, they don't know that about their job. No, they don't. That's the thing, is they're not, all of our police forces across the country don't get the same training. That's ridiculous.
They have a SWAT team, Sandy. They have a SWAT team.
I know. But how many were on the SWAT team?
Which, like, why do they even have a SWAT team, first of all?
If one woman could go in and rescue all those children,
Yeah.
and all those people went in, come on, that doesn't even make sense.
And why is she like that? And the cops, whether they're
Right.
cops or not, I mean, why are they not giving a, you know what?
They
Like,
said
what?
that they were. They said that they
Their
were. afraid
motto
to be
is to
shot.
serve and protect.
They were in
They said-
shock.
They said they were
Well-
afraid of getting shot. That's what they said.
Hey, the
Okay,
SWAT
she
team,
wasn't.
Yes.
the SWAT
woman.
team,
Right.
without armor or anything to protect
Yeah,
her.
no gun, probably. Yeah,
Oh my God.
I did not know that.
I didn't either. Wow. Well,
Disturbing and heroic all in one. I mean,
exactly.
just how do you?
So I'm going to close this out because I think everybody said what they need to say about this, but I want to just, from the last conversation, I want to just encourage all of us to stay united and to be aware and do our research and know what's happening. I know, like for me, it's hard for me sometimes because it weighs on me. But I was looking up, I was trying to get somebody to come on who is familiar with laws and policies, why things are allowed to happen. Things that are like, it's nonsense. It doesn't even make sense, but it's allowed to happen because they have policies that becomes law to protect bad behavior. So we just have to keep researching and doing our homework and I guess getting involved. I don't like politics, but it seems like that's something we have to do without being political. Just know what we're fighting against for our rights.
And
Right?
you have to be a change agent, which means that when you see something that is unbalanced and it's right in front of you, that you don't stand there and just walk away, you say something.
I think, yeah.
What are you doing?
The
Mhm.
women, I think some of the women in the Bill Cosby trial or whatever were, I think they collectively changed what is that law where it's statute of limitation where, oh, it's been 10 years, get over it. You know, I think they band together and changed sexual assault law, I believe. I need to research it, but I think they did. I think they band
That
together.
would be amazing if they did.
Yes.
Look it up and check my facts. But I think that was one thing they either tried to do or did do in California. It could have been a state, just that state. But you hear that all the time. Well, you know, why did you remember it? It's that whole repressed memory. And, you know, if you've got all these different women and Harvey Weinstein, all these women have finally come forward. It's like, you can do a lot together collectively and say enough. And to your point, Char, that's the law. That's the law. You have to go after that, the policy, the law. And I think they did. I think they had some success. It may have just been in that state. So I need to check. Sorry about that. Check my facts, but I think they got somewhere. You know, because then you're shut down. If the law states, then what else can you do? Change the law. I mean, that's
Exactly.
that's
And
the
do you
last
know how much? Do you know how much work it is to undo a policy of the law?
Yeah.
To undo, it's crazy.
You've got. I'm
Well,
sure. I can't imagine.
That's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did for 40 years. She took one.
Men could rape their wives in even the 70s. It was not illegal to rape your wife. You had to. You're almost like you're a piece of property almost still. It's just a little wacky holdover.
Have you all seen the movie about her life and about what happened in that one trial that she won? That started the beginning. She had 124 cases or something that she brought before the Supreme Court. The first woman to bring a case to the Supreme Court and won.
Wow.
And then just one after the other. She was going after laws that separated men from women. She was equalizing us under the law. One woman.
She's a badass.
I mean, she was, she
just
was
a badass.
just a badass. You betcha. Every time I see that film, I cry that we lost such a statured woman who actually, not just for herself, she was doing it for all people, men and women.
Yes.
She defended a man for his right to collect money or get refund
for
taking care of his mother.
Right.
the law was discriminating against a male, and she took that case on, and then she started her very, very active life. We need 100,000 Ruth Bader Ginsburgs. Where are we going to get them from?
Can we start with these?
Oh, yeah, if they are interested in the law.
I mean, in whatever way.
In whatever way, yeah. I
Yes.
wish men knew that it doesn't benefit them to have these helpless, and I'm generalizing about women to make a point, but helpless financially, strapped. it just doesn't to have, it doesn't help a society either. It just doesn't. If the more educated women are, and they've studied this all over the world, apparently, the less children they have. There's nothing wrong with having children, although population is a little bit high, in my humble opinion. We can't sustain all these people, but the more educated women are, the more freedom they have. And,
Yes.
they're not going to get married at 14, 15. There's laws in certain countries that have women married off at, right when they're hit puberty. It's just,
It's
those kinds of
disgusting.
laws. There's actually a
Yes.
woman in Africa who's doing, she's a leader there, and she's changing the law of the marital age for girls.
Awesome.
She's upping it. And she's another badass, excuse my phrase, but it's
Oh, you're
people like
fine.
that. I don't know if she's a lawmaker, but she's doing it in her own country. So I wish men understood that. Why do they want dependent? Why do they want weakness in women? I just don't understand
There's
it.
two ways to get ahead in life. One is on your own merits, and
Amber,
the
don't
other
lose
is
your
in the
thought.
head of somebody else. Do you know about the travelers in this country? This group of people that are driven by, they travel and they fix things in other homes and things like that. And this is a group that marries their kids off at 9, 10, 11 years old.
Oof.
And that's terrible. And these
That's
are
just-
middle-class white American people. And they go from one southeastern town to another and set up shop and do their thing. And then the girls are married off very young to sometimes older men and sometimes boys a little bit older.
Sex slave.
Yeah, it's
Kind
just,
of.
Right.
Mhm.
we're still being sold.
So, I mean, what does an old man need to do with a little kid? It's all about sex.
She's new. She's never been touched before. As if that makes a good difference.
Well, yeah, she's just a piece of property.
She's just a piece of flesh. There's no experience in her. So it's an interesting thing that men are still dictating those rules. We need more women in office. So I think Nina and Amber should be thinking about running for some kind of office.
Hey.
Their voices out there. I'm too damn old. No,
I love their
why
like-
not, Nina? Wait a minute. Why not, Nina?
Want to be involved in our gross government.
Thank you.
Well, the only way you can change it is from the inside. We can't change it from
No,
the
I'm not of that mentality. I'm of the throw it away mentality.
Like what we were talking about last week. I'd
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
burn it all to the ground than be on the inside. Because it's just we have in places. I don't
Yeah,
think
we can't reform. Some things are beyond reform. We just can't. I don't know.
Wow.
Can I want to suggest two things.
Yes.
Two things to watch if you guys have time. Because I think Char wants to wrap it up, right?
Yes. I mean, we can
So-
go ahead. I mean, I was going to wrap it up because it seemed like we were all pretty much finished saying what we needed to say. But go ahead.
Oh, maybe Nina can speak more to this because I'm not that well versed on the chakra system yet. I'm still studying it, but there's like the wounding to the chakra system that comes with rape and sexual assault is something that is passed down through generations. And it really again, I don't know how to really articulate this. I just know that it damages the structure of the individual, of the family, and of the society that they belong to when that is like a reoccurring thing.
Mm-hmm.
People who are victims, there are a lot of like serial rapists who were victims of rape, victims
Yes.
of sexual assault themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a TED Talk on YouTube that will forever live rent-free in my mind. And it's called Have You Ever Met a Monster by Amy Hurdy. The way that she describes a rapist that she met is something, it's sort of, I want to say that it humanizes him, not in a like extreme justification sort of way, but just as a like, once people become, okay, I'm thinking of R. Kelly right now, I'm sorry. When somebody is like a victim of something, you're a victim up until you commit a crime or commit the same crime. Once you commit a crime, it's like you're a demon. People don't see you as a person anymore. They don't care about your past. And it's important, if you ever want to get to a place of like not having to deal with things like sexual assault, it's important for you to look at the like the perpetrator's history, their mindset, their upbringing, what happened to them.
Yes.
You can't just be like, oh, you're a criminal, throw them behind bars, give them the death penalty. You can't, you know, people just want to lay the blame on something, on that one person, and see like that one person brought to justice, but there's a whole bunch of people that came before that person that created that person.
That's right.
And the other thing that I wanted to suggest.
Can I say something on that real quick, Amber?
Yeah.
Because what I found out, my biological father is a monster. He has raped many women, assaulted many women. And I finally got to talk to him for the first time last year. And I think I allowed my spirit to guide me in that moment and not allow my anger to take over. And something just said to me to ask him, what happened to you? That's all I could say to him. And he was very quiet at first, but I think it took him back probably to a place of thinking, really, you know, that wounded child. Because he too was born an innocent child. And something happened to him to get him on this path. And I prayed with him. I prayed for him. I asked him if I could pray for him. And he thanked me. But because he hasn't been, his mind is not rehabilitated, counseling is never going to be an option for him. At this point, he is just who he is. And I know that I can never have a relationship or even get to know him, because he's a master manipulator. He's called and left messages, and I won't return his calls. But I did what I needed to do for closure for me.
For yourself, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. That was on point. Amber.
You're welcome.
You were going to say something else?
The second thing is a movie called The Stoning of Soraya M. It's about a woman in an Iranian village. I don't know when this was. I'm looking at it right now. Let me see the year that it came out.
Is that also a book, or is it just the movie?
No, I think it is also a book.
Yeah.
So there was a French journalist went to an Iranian village and was told, but I think this was after they killed Soraya. This was a woman who, she was married to this man who wanted to, the movie came out in 2009. I don't know when like the journalist actually went to the village and, you know, got this story. But at the time, Soraya was married to her husband, and her husband wanted to take another wife. But I think Soraya was against the divorce or the separation, because there's like stigma and other things culturally that comes along with a woman who's been divorced. And so to get out of his marriage, he told the village people that she was an adulterer, that she cheated on him. And the penalty for that was stoning. So they literally like buried her up to her neck and they threw stones at her until she died. That's what what did you say before? I basically just told you what the movie was about. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's like a common thing. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't have words today. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think this is a heavy topic. This is a heavy topic. Well, hopefully we can find ways of uniting. Because I mean, talking is, I think, half the battle. Coming together and acknowledging all this, addressing it, but taking action in some way for not only ourselves, but for the whole community of women, the whole
Well,
tribe.
we're taking it here, I think. We are maybe there may be other clusters of folks like ourselves
That's
who have an interest in spreading this. Wouldn't it be interesting if we could find out where they are and then kind of connect, and say,
Exactly.
hey, let's have a conference here. You guys are all very, very intelligent people. And what I bring to this party is just some longevity.
And your wisdom.
No, but I can put it into a context that you, Amber, and you, Nina, would not know because you were born much later and you didn't know about all the fights that had to be happened before you even came to be. You're very brave, Amber. You identify as a lesbian. You're comfortable with that. I know people who would kill themselves.
That's right.
In the 50s rather than admit to that.
That's right.
So because of the public shaming affair, that word should be stricken from the lexicon. Shame is the worst kind of.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a worst kind of abuse. To shame someone. I remember being a little kid in Catholic church, and the nuns were always going, "Shame on you for doing
it." Right.
And that shame is different from a sense of guilt. I had somebody distinguish it for me when I was in school. Guilt is something you feel temporarily. You forget mom's birthday and you go, shoot, I gotta call mom.
Mm-hmm.
But it's transient. Shame becomes a part of you. You become sort of less than. Your shoulders are shrunk down. Your head feels like there's a heavy weight. When you see people walking around like that, they've got a huge baggage.
Yeah.
They can't get rid of.
Yeah.
Next time you see somebody who's looking like they've just lost their best friend, become their best friend. If nothing else, just touching another human is a way to start spreading goodwill and good thoughts.
Exactly. You're absolutely. I remember an experience I had some years ago, and mind you, I was still very much in the church, but I never embraced a lot of the teachings, to shun people who were different than me, who believed different than me. And I remember there was I think it was a trans, I don't know, but was it trans female? When they look, yeah. And she was standing at the corner, and I don't know if she was prostituting. I think she was. I think at that corner at that time, she was prostituting. And something just made me go over to her and just talk to her like a human being. And I said, hello, how are you? Just casual. She started crying.
Oh.
And she hugged me. Just something simple like that. People just want to be seen as human and to be cared for and to be loved. So let's just be light. Let's just keep going out there and doing what we do. And Sandy, I love that idea about partnering, finding those.
Because look at all those Zoom groups that came out of global music.
Right.
These things are really a part of the culture. The culture is alive with ideas and dialogue. And the saddest thing that came out of last week for me was the two of you feeling so hopeless about the future.
Yes.
There's a lot of reason to feel hopeless.
Yes.
No, I don't feel hopeless.
Yeah. It's not hopelessness. It's just I don't have faith in our current system.
Right.
It's not that I trust that like my generation will be fine and I think we'll figure it out. I just don't trust the current generation that's in power.
Yeah.
That's what I don't have faith in. I have probably almost a naive amount of faith in the way things are going. Like I look at climate change and I'm like, we'll figure it out somehow.
Yeah.
Like it's almost too naive. It's just that I know that a lot has to fall and burn down for the way that I think the world will end up being.
Yeah.
I
This
would
is a
like to
really
see
big, like,
laws, for example, in campaigns, I would love to see a law that said that there are strict rules around campaigning. You cannot just put somebody down because you like to. You don't get to create lies about them just so they lose the election. Where we have to start having a little more decorum in our speak.
See you, Tobias.
And it is playing itself out in that Amber Heard trial and the Johnny Depp trial. And the craziness of that trial is just nuts to me. But think about that one trial getting so much public attention.
It's a distraction.
It's gross too.
That
It
trial
shouldn't
is a
be everyone's
distraction.
Wow.
I don't know where anybody stands on whether he is guilty of this or not guilty of this.
Not.
To me, she hasn't proved her case. I just kind of go, this is a woman who's trying to get ahead fast with the shortcut. But there are those people, the narcissists, who just think they have an entitlement.
Right.
And we have many people, leaders, who are coming in with entitlement issues.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
She's very obviously narcissistic.
Her
Yeah.
behavior from like on a psychological level is like very blatantly obvious that she's a narcissist and is, you know, probably has some other personality disorders as well. And I don't want to judge her for it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're human, but like it's a little bit clear. But I also hate that this case is getting so much attention because it's the woman in the wrong.
Right.
But there's literally Kevin Spacey who's back in acting now, and he molested little boys. So it's like, let's focus on those people.
He's
like,
been
why are
charged in England. Kevin Spacey was charged in England a few days ago with, I think it was 4 cases. Yeah, I mean, it's hardest to get the ones.
But it doesn't get as much public attention. Now there's all these people chiming in about Amber Heard, and it's like,
we don't need to see that. That's not
I don't care. How old were you when the OJ case took place?
I wasn't born.
Okay. Now, as watching that case, I was so livid with him getting away with that murder. There's no way anybody else did that. And the way he was handled, because he was a football star, thus again perpetuating the myth that men are powerful, they get to stay powerful. It took somebody to get him on stealing in a hotel room in Las Vegas before he wound up in jail. Never did get around the murder.
Which is so crazy. But listen, I'm going to let Tobias close us out with his comment.
Okay.
And thank you all so much for an amazing conversation. And we'll pick this up outside of this forum, okay? Go ahead, Tobias.
Going back to what you said, Sandy, about the campaign, about them going back and forth. I actually work at a place where I sit there and I edit those videos all day long. It's actually not the people, the campaigning people. It's their advisors that call us and say, hey, I need you to go against this person because I want to be able to go against the polls and I want to bring out this back. It's just back and forth all day long. And I work on the Democratic side. So, I mean,
it's like the old, when William Randolph Hearst, the yellow journalism of the turn of the century in the 1900s, and he wanted to have us in the Spanish-American War. And there was all of that lies that perpetuated something that shouldn't have been there. The power of the press is so enormous. And now the press has been replaced by people's opinions instead of real hard journalism who are just reporting facts.
Right.
We don't have the Cronkites and the Huntley Brinkleys and those real charactered men who believed in their mission to just deliver the news, not editorialize it. And in being more and more perceptive of when somebody's lying is going to be in your benefit, you young ladies. You got to really pay attention, be astute.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was raised by 2 narcissists.
Oh, really? Oh, my goodness. That's a tough job.
That's a tough one. All right, beautiful people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's keep the conversation going. Keep
Okay,
the movement going.
so you're ending it for the season 3